Stadtbild is a term that could mean anything. By definition, it means the visual representation or appearance of the city. In October 2025, German Chancellor Merz used it in the sense of feeling secure. He voiced his opinion about the Stadtbild being a serious issue. However, he did not specify why or what or how this lack of feeling security comes from. In my humble opinion, he's afraid of the kebab stores. After all, there are some hairy, mostly Turkish men with big knives asking you how your day was. Horror in German society. This may sound like a joke, but no, I'm that serious. This could exactly potentially be what Merz was referencing. After all, as the Chancellor of Germany, as the leader of the country who brought forth the likes of Kant, pushing the Enlightenment in Europe, he did not bother to specify anything. A statement without substance is equal to no statement, so why did he do it? In my opinion, out of populism. The right is on the rise and the established parties are incapable to gather two brain cells together in order to articulate logical arguments against the alt-right, so the next best thing is to voice a similar opinion. Could I be wrong with this? Absolutely. Could I be right with this? Absolutely. You see where I'm going with this. When a leader of a country does not want to specify a problem and throws around very vague statements that could be taken in any context, then we are not pushing the direction of a constructive debate, but a pissing and shitting contest. Worse, this shitting and pissing contest is neither questioned by the media nor the public. Sure, the statement itself is reported and debated upon, but the most important topics fall short and on deaf ears. Topics that plague the country which are not addressed. Let me put it this way. Is Stadtbild really among the most important issues of Germany right now? Even if we put stagnating economy, the low fertility rate, the terrible infrastructure, or the rising expectations of working longer and longer until retirement is put aside, is this really the priority and the issue the country is facing? In a recent study, it was found out that about 150,000 people die annually due to drug consumptions. I'm not talking about meth or crack, but about alcohol and tobacco. 150,000 people, year by year. Not 150,000 people are facing health issues. No, they're dead. To put things into perspective, in the Battle of Verdun, one of the most iconic battles in World War I, the Germans lost about 150,000 soldiers. Every single year, Germany is having a Battle of Verdun, and every single year, they are losing this battle. Every single damn year, 150,000 people are dead because of it. But guys, the priority is feeling secure because Stadtbild, very important, guys. I'm sure Merz was thinking about the Terrans when he was talking about Stadtbild, right, guys? Because the freedom of a human being is the most important thing on this planet. If one wishes to gamble their freedom away for addiction, then surely this is not a subject the government should tackle, but an individual, private problem. 4.6 million adults were reported to be addicted in 2023, or at risk to be addicted to gambling. 1.3 million adult lives are already suffering from a gambling disorder. 3.3 million are at risk, not in Europe, but in Germany alone. But don't worry, this is not just a present issue, considering how German influencers like Montana Black are openly advertising gambling. This most definitely is going to impact the next generation as well. The future of this country is going to gamble their lives away. Very reassuring that big gambling companies will become richer and most likely not pay any taxes in Germany. Surely Merz was thinking about the gambling dens when he was talking about Stadtbild. It's not just the lack of topics that are not discussed, it's the lack of critical thinking. The Chancellor wants to increase the German army. Priority, Germany should have the biggest PP in all of Europe. Why, you may ask? No reason. And most of this money is going to go into tanks. Why, you may ask? No reason. Because clearly a bigger tank fleet will stop Russia from invading Ukraine. That's surely going to change all the decision making in all of Europe. Because German neighbors are about to invade the country, so having a larger tank fleet is most definitely important. I'm taking crazy pills for asking these questions, for seeing an issue with this investment. Big tank expansion in the Ukrainian-Russian war can't possibly be a wrong investment. And of course no one questions this. Apparently this is a great idea. The EU, not Europe, but the EU has 2 million active soldiers. If you count the reserves and paramilitary forces, you likely end up with tens of millions of soldiers. The combined armies of the EU countries have likely thousands of tanks, thousands of aircrafts, thousands of armored vehicles. So, what is the decision making here? If you have 20,000 combined tanks, no one will ever dare to attack. If I have more guns, I'm stronger? Who is paying for these tanks? Where is the effective force when these tanks are just collecting dust in some German garage? Wouldn't it make more sense to form a European army? Wouldn't that be cheaper? It would most certainly require less of an investment because you wouldn't have to produce overpriced tanks to collect dust in Germany. I'm not saying that you have to talk about priority number 1 or 2 or 5 or 50 or 100. But for the sake of argument, let's say Merz just wanted to mention priority number 267, not because he didn't care about the priority number 1 to 266, but simply because he wanted to mention it. Is he justified with his vague statement? Is it alright for the leader of a country to make very vague statements? This most likely is not the debate about buildings, then it is about people. People don't say it out loud, but they are bothered by various ethnicities, by various cultures. Not by Asian cultures, Far Asian cultures, because they are fetishized, but by Islamic cultures. So let's have a serious, factual debate about people. The Bundeskriminalamt, basically the Department for Criminal Investigation, actually does provide factual, empirical data to talk about this topic. So we don't have to take guesses. However, you require more than just room temperature IQ, and you have to be sharper than Marvel in order to understand what these huge numbers mean and how you can and should interpret the topic. In the past 4 to 5 years, the number of suspects was at a staggering 1.8 to 2 million people. About 1/3 of all these suspects were non-German, and about 7 to 8% were refugees. For the giga brains out there, the percentage here is not additive. The refugees are counted in the non-German numbers. However, you can see a clear increase of non-German suspects. If you look at the country of origin of these suspects, then you see that most of these suspects are Syrian, Ukrainian, something people don't talk about a lot, and Afghans. Then you have a significant amount of Iraqis, Turks, Algerians, Moroccans, Georgians, and Tunisians. So some might see this and already say, I knew it, the Muslims, they're all criminals, case closed. Well, yes, the Emirate of Ukraine and the Sultanate of Georgia will totally agree with you here. Putting the nonsense aside, you can see something interesting here, namely, first, the suspects are from generally speaking poor countries. Second, it's completely expected that refugees from war-torn countries are more prone to criminal activities if you don't bother to integrate them into society. Third, this is not a cultural issue. As an example, Turks comprise 4.6% of the suspects. If I take the 2024 numbers from figure 3, then we're talking about 35,000 people. This most certainly includes repeated offenders. We have about 2 million Turkish citizens in Germany, so we're talking about 1.7% of Turks in Germany being suspects. As a comparison, Germany has about 70 million German citizens living in Germany, so 2.7% of all German citizens are suspects. If we look further into the provided file, we see that most crimes were about theft, then crimes against someone's freedom, followed by forgery offenses. But more importantly, figure 9 is provided, which will provide you a very important information. Figure 9 tells you about the jobs these suspects have. Most of these suspects are part of the service and craftsmanship industry, so to speak, followed by jobs relating to transport. Why is this important? Because these people are not in Germany for high-paying jobs, not for the academic jobs. And here lies the fundamental issue in this country. You have a society that is on average going towards 50. These people are not interested in low-paying jobs. So Germany has a huge workforce issue regarding these jobs. It's not the Koreans and Japanese truck drivers that will bother coming to Germany, but the countries in the vicinity of Germany, specifically the poor ones. These people are not from educated households, but most likely from poor environments. War-torn environments with likely a missing parental figure. You take these people in, not because you're generous, but because your people are not willing to do the shitty jobs for shitty payment and a shitty work-life balance. You do not integrate these people. You tell them to learn German and tell them to go and be fine. Your property prices are through the roof. So most, if not more than half of the income these people earn go to just staying alive. And here's the funny part, you expect nothing to happen with anyone while you do absolutely nothing. The comedy writes itself. I am no expert and I do not have a solution to this apparent problem. However, if you want to start a debate about migration policy, you have to ask yourself, why do I need migrants? And you do need them. The government is not taking more people because they feel like it, but because the entire societal structure is going to collapse with an aging population with low fertility rate. More so, you have to ask yourself, why does no one, except people from poor countries, want to come to my country to do the shitty jobs? Why do I not have an integration policy, and how would an integration policy look like? The topic is most definitely more nuanced than just migrants evil, we only take the academic ones now, because you still need people in these shitty jobs with shitty payment. You could obviously go on and on with potential solutions and laws and regulations, but all of these things require money and, more importantly, a nuanced and critical but also honest debate about the state of the country and the issues it is facing. This topic goes back to the fertility rate, it goes back to the stagnating economy, it goes back to mentally challenged investments by the government, it goes back to the retirement age, it goes back to the consumerism within the country and the expectations in life. It is connected to all of this, and the topic has to be discussed within the frame of these subjects. Saying Stadtbild and weaseling your way out is not just an insult to the topic itself. It's an insult to your mind, your well-being, your life, and your expectations in life.